Hello internet friends, my name is Catherine and I'm the human behind Creation Musculature. And today is Color Wheel Monday, the series in which I make my way through color wheels and color theory one color at a time. And today what we're going to be adding to our Fire Engine Red is Green Kelly. Green Kelly is a very vibrant green and I'm very excited to see how it will interact with the Fire Engine Red. One of the reason why we're going to be doing this, even though it's not technically on the color wheel to be adding green to our Fire Engine Red, it's simply because I want to have a comparison point when we're going to be working primarily with Green Kelly for when we're adding red, and how having Green Kelly as the primary color will change versus having Fire Engine Red as a primary color in what we're working with. So let's get into this. Welcome back to Color Wheel Monday. However, today is not technically a real color wheel thing because we've technically finished all the red where we could be adding the, well, red, yellow, and blue, white, and black. So what we're going to do now is the portion where I'm doing my colors, so we'll be able to compare them to when we reach the other colors in the color wheel. So what I mean by that is that when we will be reaching the blue, I wanted to be able to compare it to when we've added all the red and stuff like that to, well, when we added all the blue to the red. So I will be able to compare the colors and we'll be able to compare how the blue impacts the final color and how the red on the blue will impact colors, because when you have this as your main color versus red as your main color, it will create a different color, if that makes sense. Anyways, we will see the comparison when we reach that. So I already have my 1% stock solution of Fire Engine Red, and we'll be working with Green Kelly. I already made my 1% stock solution off camera, and we're going to be adding this. So as usual, we'll have the Fire Engine Red as our primary color in here. So we'll have we will be adding 10 milliliters because we will be working with 10 grams mini skeins. So for a 1% depth of shade, we need 10 milliliters of a 1% stock solution. Whew, that was a lot of words. And after that, like we did in the previous video, we'll be adding our green. So here it will be a 0.05, 0.10, 0.25, 0.5, 0.75, and a 1% stock solution, 1% depth of shade, sorry, from our 1% stock solution. And add those. And it looks like we're going to make brown. And green. And greens. So green is also one of those colors that will overpower things depending on like how much you have. I'm very curious to see with the tissue what it would look like. Oh, interesting. So there we still have, well, so one of the reasons we don't usually believe, well, it's not that we don't believe, but one of the reasons we also want to test out, oh, we have a green olive here, the color on the skeins is because since we don't have any acid in those jars, okay, and we have this beautiful green here. Oh, that's very pretty. Yes, so since we don't have any acid here or any heat as well, some colors will not show off the way it will once it has been heat set and there's the acid has been added to the thing. So that's why it's a little difficult to determine in whoop-de-doo the accuracy with the tissue test, but it will give us a good idea. Okay, so now we're going to be adding the mini skeins. So we are using the 10-gram mini skeins from Knit Picks, the fingering stroll ones. because they are 10 grams and it's very convenient. So brown is created with green and red and other colors, of course. Hmm. We almost have this green forest here, which is very fun and interesting. And I know I repeat myself a lot. I'm sorry about that. It's just English is a second language, so sometimes my vocabulary is not the best. Sorry. Okay, and we can see that this one will be slightly darker than this one, which was to be expected. And we'll be adding the acid once we've added the jars to our double boiling pan. Okay, let's add those to the pan. Let's add these. Sorry for the noise. So we're going to be adding the water up over here. So we have a good amount of water there. Okay, now that we have the water, we're going to turn on the heat here. I'm going to add my acid. And since we only have like 10 grams of fiber in there, we don't need a whole lot. So this is half a teaspoon, and like I wouldn't even need that much of acid in there. After adding the acid, we're going to let this heat uh, for a little while. I always leave it on the stove for at least 2 hours because that's how long it takes for the water to warm up. And after that, we completely let it cool to cool down, and we're going to wash it, let it dry overnight, and we'll see the result after that. So see you in a bit. So I'm expecting a tiny bit of bleeding in this situation because green Kelly has a tendency to bleed from time to time. With green Kelly and emerald green from Dharma, I usually do have some bleeding occurring. So in this situation, if I see a hint of green, I wouldn't be surprised. And also, I will show you after this, I will show you the mason jar, and you will be able to see that in the darker shades. So with the 0.5%, 0.75%, and 1% depth of shade of green Kelly, we do have some leftover of the green in the dye bath, and it has nothing to do with the amount of citric acid we've added. It's just that some pigment will bleed a little bit more. So we know that Caribbean blues sometimes will bleed and other blues have a tendency to bleed. So when you're working with grains, it is to be expected that we might have some bleeding occurring as well. However, in this, because we don't have that much, the bleeding was not too intense. I should probably have washed separately the lighter shades than compared to like so we would be able to compare with the darker shades when we wash them, how just a few depth of shade difference can impact the bleeding of it. However, I did not think about it. So if I have this happen another time, I'll try to make a difference between those, so that way I can show you a little bit better the difference that like a few grams of or point few grams of dyes can impact the bleeding of a color. So what we're going to do after that, put it in the spin dryer, let it dry overnight. I will show you what we have left over in the mason jar, and then we'll see the final result. And you can see that the lighter shades, barely anything, we don't have anything, and we have a very small tint. Okay, so here's the final result of adding the green Kelly to the Fire Engine Red. And you can see how much the green took place. We were able to reach a spot where we made brown for the first times for this series. So this is quite interesting to see. Like when you're doing something with colors, sometimes you're just wondering if you're going to create brown, and usually I create grays when I'm unsure of what's going to happen. So it's very interesting to see what the color theory versus real life does. So this is the first time we've done a brown, and it's a nice brown with different shades and undertones. Like you can still see that there's some red in it, but the green really decided that it wanted to be the main character here. And I'm not exactly surprised by that, because there's blues in green. To create your green, you'll need blue, and blue has a tendency to overpower everything. So I'm not surprised that the green does the same thing that is Big Brother. It's very interesting that we created this almost dirty red with the green. So it was a fun experiment, that's for sure. Yeah, that was a very fun experiment. And I think if you're looking for something moodier when it comes to green, because the green Kelly is extremely vibrant. This is a very vibrant green. And if you're looking for something a little bit moodier, well, adding red to it is definitely something that will make it darker, moodier, very interesting, almost forest green. So this would be, if you don't like green Kelly but you have a bunch of it, this is experimentation that you would do to see which color you can create with your green Kelly, so you don't waste the dye, especially if you can't find someone to purchase it. So this was with the green Kelly. Hi Zoe. And I think Zoe is saying that it's time to wrap this up. So if you've liked the video, please consider liking, sharing, subscribing, and I will see you in the next one very soon. Bye.